Welcome, future flight instructors. Today, we're diving into a topic that absolutely forms the bedrock of your new career. We're looking at Task E, which covers instructor responsibilities and professionalism. Now, I want to be super clear right up front. What we're talking about today isn't just theory for you to memorize, regurgitate on a written exam, and then forget. Not at all. This is literally your master blueprint for transitioning over to the right seat of the cockpit. Pretty soon, the lives of your students and the safety of the airspace itself will rest entirely in your hands. So, let's dive right in. Ask yourself this for a second. Does a Top Gun level pilot, somebody who can grease a flawless crosswind landing with their eyes closed, do they automatically make a great instructor? Well, the answer is a hard no. Making the leap from a pilot to an instructor requires a really profound shift in your mindset. Because you see, you are no longer just operating a complex piece of machinery, you are now managing a human being. And that requires an entirely new level of responsibility, of patience, and of true professionalism. You're stepping up to be a mentor, a rigorous evaluator, and quite literally, the absolute front line of aviation safety.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be walking through core instructor duties, true professionalism, how to go about minimizing frustrations, student evaluation, and finally, continuous professional development.
Starting off with Section 1, Core Instructor Responsibilities.
It's incredibly important to understand right from day one that you are essentially wearing two very distinct hats in this job. First, you're an aviation educator. When you're wearing this hat, your whole focus is on the psychology of learning. You're creating a positive environment, you're figuring out how to manage your students' stress levels, and you're teaching general safety standards. But the moment you step out onto the tarmac, you put on your second hat. You become a flight instructor. This is a highly specific, legally binding role. Suddenly, you're responsible for strict pilot supervision, endorsing legal logbooks, and making the heavy determination of whether someone is truly safe to fly an aircraft solo. It's a delicate balancing act, really. You have to mix the empathy of an educator with the uncompromising, rigid standards of an examiner. To actually manage those dual roles without losing your mind, we rely on the HEEPD framework. Let's break this down. The H stands for helping students learn, basically making it an enjoyable and engaging process. The first E is emphasizing the positive. This is huge early on. You really want to focus on what they did right so they don't get completely overwhelmed and discouraged by their mistakes. The second E is ensuring aviation safety, which of course is absolutely non-negotiable. Then we have P for providing adequate instruction. This simply means you have to tailor your teaching style to fit the unique personality of whoever is sitting next to you. And finally, D stands for demanding adequate standards of performance. Listen, even if you become best friends with your student, you can never, ever compromise on the FAA standards.
Moving right along, we have the PEPFAT framework. This one outlines your heavy operational responsibilities. P is pilot supervision. This means being proactive, like anticipating traffic congestion well before your soloing student ever encounters it. E is evaluation of their piloting ability in real time. The next P is proficiency, making sure they aren't just memorizing a sequence of steps, but that they truly, deeply understand the aircraft. F stands for flight instructor endorsements. That's your legal signature on the line. A is additional training for when a student inevitably falls short on a maneuver. And T represents practical test standards. I want you to remember this. If your student fails their check ride, it's not just their failure. It is a direct reflection of your instruction. You sign them off, so you own their performance.
Now, I need you to sear a specific administrative number into your memory right now. The number is 3. For exactly 3 years, you are legally mandated to maintain records of every single endorsement you give out. That means recording the type of endorsement, the exact date, and the student's name. Don't brush this off as just bureaucratic busywork. This record keeping is your legal shield and a core professional obligation.
Let's move into Section 2, true professionalism.
True professionalism goes way, way beyond your stick and rudder skills. It is defined by what we call these SADS-MAPS traits. Let's run through them. S is sincerity. Trust me, students can spot a fake or disengaged instructor from a mile away. A is acceptance of the student, meaning you treat absolutely everyone equally regardless of their background. D is demeanor, projecting a calm, steady confidence. S is safety practices. M is minimizing frustrations. A stands for appearance and habits. Simply looking the part builds instant trust. P is proper language, which means zero profanity in the cockpit, ever. And that final S is self-improvement. A master instructor is never fully satisfied. They are constantly sharpening their own skills.
Section 3, minimizing student frustrations.
More can be gained from wanting to learn than from being forced to learn. I love this quote because it really is the absolute core of our teaching philosophy. Let's be real. Authoritarian, military-style yelling just does not work in a modern civilian cockpit. It shuts people down. Creating an environment where your student is intrinsically motivated, where they actually feel safe making mistakes and asking questions, is infinitely more powerful than trying to force compliance.
So, to keep those frustrations at bay, we rely on the MAC bag elements. M is motivate. A is approach them as individuals. C is constructive criticism. The golden rule here is praise in public, critique in private. K is keep them informed on their progress. B is be consistent. If your standards change wildly from one flight to the next, your student is going to experience massive frustration. A is admit errors. Look, you're human. When you mess up a maneuver, just own it. Admitting you made a mistake actually builds incredible trust with your student. And finally, G is give credit when due. Always celebrate their wins.
Moving to Section 4, Student Evaluation and Feedback. Evaluating a student is a highly dynamic process, and we use the DKC framework for it. D is demonstrated ability. You absolutely cannot evaluate someone based on your gut feeling. You have to evaluate based on established objective standards like the ACS or PTS. K is keeping the student informed. After every single flight, you need to provide a consistent, documented debrief. They should never leave the airport wondering where they stand. And C is correction of student errors, which actually brings us to a really fascinating counterintuitive point. When you're correcting errors in the air, you often have to fight your own natural instincts. When a student messes up, your immediate impulse is going to be to grab the yoke and fix it. Don't. Assuming safety permits, and let me be clear, safety is always the priority, you actually need to let the student progress part of the way into their mistake. Then, let them find their own way out of it. Stepping back and allowing them to self-recover is where the true, permanent learning actually happens. Before your student takes any test, their readiness is entirely on your shoulders. For the knowledge test, it's your job to ensure they fully grasp the foundational concepts and are truly ready for rigorous oral questioning. For the practical test, you have to verify they've completed at least 3 hours of specific preparation within 60 days of the exam and that they consistently meet the standards. Remember, your signature on their application is your professional guarantee to the examiner.
And finally, Section 5, Continuous Professional Development.
I need you to hear this. Earning your Certified Flight Instructor badge is not the finish line. It's just the starting block. A truly great instructor never, ever stops learning. You've got 4 primary avenues for continuing education: government sources like the FAA, formal educational institutions, commercial training organizations, and various industry groups. You need to actively engage with their seminars and their materials. The aviation landscape is constantly shifting, and you have to stay razor sharp to keep your students safe.
As you continue to learn, make sure you're balancing your resources. Traditional printed manuals are fantastic for giving you that deep, foundational knowledge, but modern electronic sources and databases, they offer rapid, real-time updates that you just can't get from a book. By merging the old-school wisdom of textbooks with the dynamic, on-the-fly data of an iPad, you're going to build a completely comprehensive teaching toolkit.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Your next student is your mirror. Today, what reflection will you be? The habits, the professionalism, and the safety culture you display in the cockpit are going to be directly copied by the next generation of aviators. Accept this heavy responsibility with pride. Step into that right seat and be the standard. Thanks for joining me.